No, today was supposed to be a push day, but like I said last time, I'm going to see how I feel on this push day. My shoulder is still tweaked, so I'm not going to try and do anything too special. I'm not even going to try to do a bench press or like that. We're just going to call it a shoulder rehab day, where we're just going to work on some easy stuff here and just work on the rehab of the shoulder. So this is usually something that I include in my warm up for my push days. I get like a PVC pipe like this, PVC bar, whatever you want to call it, just a very light bar, and I do, I think they're called shoulder dislocators, at least that's what I call them, dislocators, because of what you do with them. Now, ideally, you want your hands to be closer in than mine here, because that would demonstrate good shoulder mobility and good shoulder health, but I don't have the greatest, so I just got to work my hands in, and you just go back and forth like this. Warms the shoulders up. I usually do this, believe it or not, at the beginning of my chest days, because it helps me warm my shoulders up. But I also do some other movements that you guys are going to see as well. But there's other things that I do with this as well. I don't even know if some of this does some stuff, but like this, and then I'll like pull my arm back a little bit. Same thing over here. Not any stretch that I'm holding though. I'm not sitting here and like holding the bar back here or anything like that. I'm keeping it moving, keeping it dynamic. Because when you're holding a stretch, that's the static stretch that you really don't want. So if I were to just hold this right here, which is pulling my shoulder back and opening the chest up, if I were to hold it like this right here, that's actually not a good primer for movements. That's something you want to do like afterwards. But today we're not really focusing on a whole lot of heavy movements or like that, so I'm not worried about injuries, so I can demonstrate it without being like, oh, I ruined my workout, you know what I'm saying? But as long as you can make everything pretty much, you can make a lot of things dynamic by just keeping it moving instead of holding a stretch, you know what I'm saying? Ooh, and then I'll do things like this, which is more for the lats. Like I'll put my hand high up on the bar and then I'll just stretch the lat up and then act like I'm doing like a lat pull over type thing where I'm using my lat to pull my body up. This is good for the bench press because you activate the lat to hold the bar into place type thing. This is something I carried over my powerlifting days because in the powerlifting days you want to really like get everything warmed up when it comes to those exercises. So every muscle group that you use, you want to warm up. So like this, it's not a very effective lat movement, so I wouldn't use this for like hypertrophy, but to open the lats up and to sort of get it warm and get it moving, get it using, this is a good way for me to do it. I can get everything pretty much warm as long as I spend enough time with this bar right here. I can get everything warm that I need for a push day, chest day, whatever you want to call it. Whew. But that's good for the PVC pipe. Now let's move on to something else. All right, moving on. This is another thing that you can use. This can work both like as a shoulder rehab movement and as like a shoulder warm-up. And this is actually some of the movements that we do on shoulder warm-up. We do one of these movements just with a 5-pound plate, and you don't have to use a cable like that. But these other ones, these are more rehab. I'll speak to the one that we use to warm up every push day, me and my cameraman. But this is not that. So this one is going to work on external rotation, and then we're going to switch it to internal rotation as well. So you're going to get a cable, and you're going to get a D-grip handle like this, and you can even do it underhand like this if you wanted to, but I prefer to do a side grip like this, a neutral grip. And from here, it's really simple. You want to use lighter weight as well. You're just going to try and keep that elbow fixed in place. I know it's almost impossible to keep it from drifting away from the body if you try this movement with weight, but you're going to think about keeping that elbow fixed in place and then just rotating the arm out. As you can see, my elbow comes out no matter what. I can try my best to keep it in, but then the rotation there is just very nullified. So I think about keeping the elbow in place until I get to the outer parts of it, but this is really good for the shoulder health and the rotation of the shoulder as well. So we're going to do a couple of movements here, and then when I do a couple of reps here, we're going to swap to the internal rotation. Man, this is great for the shoulder, I'll tell you what. And then internal rotation, I'm going to step further away from the cable, grab it with the inside hand that is close to the cable, elbow pin, and then it is in the name, it's just internally rotating that weight there. So we'll do this on both sides. I won't film the other side, but we'll do this on both sides here. So a couple of reps here. It's a little bit easier for internal rotation, but if you control these movements and you don't just slam the weight around like this, you can actually get some benefit out of it, and it can strengthen your shoulders as well as warm them up. So you can use them for both. You can use them to strengthen the shoulders and warm them up. The movement beforehand is good for loosening the shoulders up and working on the mobility of it, but this right here is good for strengthening them as well because you're using a resistance profile. All right, like I said, I won't film the other side, but I'll show you the next movement later. All right, moving on to the next movement here, you're gonna stay on the cable, and this is one of the movements that we actually do just with a 5-pound plate. We sit on the ground and we put our elbows on our knee, And then that's how you get that resistance, because if you're just standing here doing this, it's not gonna work as good. But if you actually hold something against the elbow, so it's fixed in place like this, and you rotate it on the elbow, it's actually a lot better. This one, you just have to focus on keeping the elbow up. So we're gonna rotate all the way down to all the way up. Simple movement like this. This is all it is. And you could do the reverse movement of this as well, where you put the cable high and you pull it all the way down and then let it go back up as well. But this one right here, easy peasy movement. Just nice and slow. Keep the elbow up. Just don't let the elbow drop down here. Keep the elbow up and rotate it on one point of axis right there. Kind of like you're trying your best to keep a 90-degree angle between your elbow and your shoulder. As you can see, my elbow's dropping a little bit as I come down. That's the fatigue kicking in, but okay. That's another really good warm-up exercise for a push day, warming up the shoulders, but it's also great for strengthening it if you use resistance. So after that, I'll show you guys what the downward one looks like. Check it out. This is the last one. We had to kind of engineer this one because standing was not an option, because the cable doesn't go high enough to keep the arm upright like this. It would kind of stop like right here. So this was a little bit of an awkward movement, but if you focus on keeping the elbow up, you can actually cook. So, like for my cameraman, I was holding the hand under his elbow like this, so when he was pushing down, he could push against my hand but keep his elbow in place. But he's right now filming, so I just have to focus on it mentally. But it's just reverse of the movement where you're pulling upwards. This time you're just pulling down and then slowly letting it back up, getting that stretch in there. But you're trying to get as full of a rotation as you can during the whole movement. You know, I'm not just like sitting right here doing this partial movement. I want the whole movement, so all the way up, all the way down. And you kind of want to use a lighter weight. For all of these, really, you want to use a lighter weight so you're not incorporating other muscle groups, but also so you don't injure yourself, because the rotator cuff, especially when you start out with these movements, ooh, my shit's cooked. Especially when you start out with these movements, it cannot be super bulletproof. It could be something that's easily injured. So you want to go lighter weight, higher reps, so that you can focus on the movement portion of it instead of how much weight you're actually doing. So you can actually get a good burn in there and strengthen the rotator cuff. Maybe at some point you can up the weight and things like that if you consistently do these movements throughout the weeks and you're actually using it to strengthen the shoulder rather than just rehab it. But these workouts are great for strengthening, and these aren't all of the shoulder movements that you could do to strengthen your shoulder. There's so many other ones. These are just a few that I personally use. I've used these before and I will use these again. And these are things that I use just when I feel like my shoulder is kind of like losing a little bit of strength as far as the rotator cuff goes. So just those tiny muscles that you don't exactly work when you skip shoulder presses, because I don't do shoulder presses. I do lateral raises and I do rear delts, but I don't do a lot of rotational stuff. So these are great for warm-ups, but also if you need to strengthen the shoulder, these are good for that as well. These are something that I use and have worked for me in the past, me personally, so take that with a grain of salt. But other than that, we have ab crunches at the end of this, so if you guys don't end up seeing that, I appreciate y'all for watching, and I hope to see y'all next time.